All right, so what I wanted to talk about is stuff for the History 112 class. Obviously, we're going to talk about World Civ. It's World Civ 2. Where this picks up at is it picks up with exploring the New World, okay? But before you can explore the New World, we have to figure out and talk about why we need a New World, why we're looking for a New World, and what the precedent is for the exploring and for the exploration. So what's happening in the Old World, what has happened in the Old World. A big part of that relates back. We have to deal with the church, and the church is the church Catholic at this point. The Christian church is largely the Roman Catholic Church or the Greek Orthodox Church. Both are Christian, both have the same basic ideals with a few belief and ritual differences, but they're both Christian. This is important. The Greek Orthodox Church is going to be housed mainly in Constantinople. The Roman Catholic Church is going to be housed in Rome, where the Pope is at, versus where the Patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church is at. The thing is they're both Christian. Well, what's happening is this, over in Constantinople, over in the Byzantine Empire, which is actually the Eastern Roman Empire, right? The Eastern Roman Empire, really what remains of the old Roman Empire itself, is facing off against Islam. It's facing off against growing Islam. It's facing off against a variety of different Islamic empires. And so it is having some issues. Well, in addition to that, we're looking at the rise of what we call the Seljuk Turks. And the Seljuk Turks are going to be recruited into Islam. They're going to become true believers. They're going to become zealots. And what they're going to do is they're going to go on a jihad, a holy war in the name of the prophet, and say, okay, well, look, according to the teachings, according to the Quran, according to the prophet, we should be doing this and this and this and this and this and this. And they're in the jihad going to go ahead and not only attack the Byzantine Empire in Constantinople, but they're going to go ahead and retake Jerusalem. They're going to go ahead and take the Holy Land, which is going to set off a whole bunch of alarms, a whole bunch of bells and whistles. And what will happen is the emperor in Constantinople, the Roman emperor, will go ahead and he will appeal to Rome, and he will use the patriarch of the church to appeal to Rome, to appeal to the Pope and to Christendom, and say, hey, look, these infidels, right? These infidels, and whether or not you're an infidel depends on which side of the religious fence you're standing on. But he's going to say these infidels have taken the Holy Land. They've taken the place of the birth of Christ. They've taken the place of the birth of our whole religion, and they're going to dirty it. They're going to pillage it. They're going to loot it. We can't go there now, and we need to rescue it. And what we need is we need help rescuing Christendom. What they're going to do is they're going to appeal to the Pope and ask the Pope to go ahead and appeal. And what will happen is Pope Urban II will go ahead and he will call a convocation. He will go ahead and appeal to the leaders of Christendom in Europe. And what's important is the fact that even though the Roman Empire doesn't exist anymore, and now we've blossomed to what has become the Holy Roman Empire, what has continued to exist is going to be the Catholic Church. It's going to be the Christian Church. And so what has happened is some rather intelligent popes have linked themselves. They have linked themselves and the church to these fine, upstanding rulers. And the idea being is listen, we'll scratch your back. We will say, okay, the church says and God says you should be king. Give them the divine right to rule, if you will let people know that this is the church and that you back the church and that your foundations are here. And what's going to happen is the Pope will make his appeal. And his appeal comes down to, God wills it, right? Comes down to God wills it. God, and what he says is, listen, if you will go on a crusade, if you and your people will go and rescue the Holy Land, whatever you do in the name of Christ, all is forgiven. So if you need to loot and pillage, if you need to kill, if you need to break all 10 of the commandments, if you're doing it in the name of Christ, then we're good. Just go on and do that as long as you can rescue the Holy Land. Now, obviously that's a really short form version of things, but what this does is kick off the Crusades. And it's a series of crusades, and they're not just the Holy Land. You're going to see crusades in Europe, you're going to see crusades in a variety of places, but the idea is to restore the base of Christianity. What's important about this, some are more successful than others. Yeah, we're going to see that they will establish the Crusader states, that they will establish certain guilds, that they'll establish the Hospitallers, they'll establish quite a few different things. And some of you folks will go, well, yeah, they've established some other theories and some mysteries behind things. I'm not going to go there. What's important is that it establishes trade. It establishes regular travel to the Middle East, and with this increased travel, with this increased trade, comes the introduction of new products, of new food, of new spices, of new cloth, of new culture, a wider variety of things, and so it broadens the trade network. Well, part of this broadened trade network is going to be the Genovese traders in Italy trading, and eventually heading east and heading over towards China, heading over towards the Southeast Asia area and trading in there. And in the process, what's going to happen is they're going to run into another group that most people know relatively well or have heard of. They're going to run into the Mongols. They're going to run into Genghis Khan and company. And Genghis Khan is currently expanding his foothold in Asia. He's currently expanding his foothold in China. And what they're doing is they're using a biological weapon. And the biological weapon is going to be the plague. They're going to not be immune to it, but they're resistant to it because many of them have had it before. Plague is relatively common, and they can trace it back, as far as they're concerned, rats. At least the Mongols know that the rats often are the precursors to the plague, and so what's going to happen is the Mongols are going to use terror. They're going to terrorize the people. So the first thing that happens when they know the Mongols are coming is they shut the doors, they lock the gates, they bar the town, and what the Mongols will do is they will drive literally herds of rats. They will drive hundreds of rats that they've caught, drive them into the town, and what will happen is the rats have fleas, and fleas carry the plague. It carries the pestis. It carries what is going to be black plague. It infects the people. In addition to that, the Mongols will take people and bodies from the field after they've bloated, launch them over the walls, splat, and spread plague and disease into the cities. Well, this is really, really good tactic. And what will happen is the Genovese traders are going to run into the Mongols in one of these port cities. And they're going to go, oh my God, it's the Mongols, right? And so what will happen is once they figure out, oh, well, look, this plague is happening, this disease is happening, these people are dying, we should leave. Okay, well, that's like putting on your COVID mask after you've been to the close-knit assembly. That's like going putting on the mask after you've left the parade and you were elbow to elbow with people. Because when they're leaving because people are dying, what they don't realize is many of them already have a precursor to the plague, that they've already got rats on the ships. And so when they're sailing back and they're going to town, well, some of these ships are going to be ghost ships. They're going to be ghost boats. The people are going to be dead or largely dead or dying by the time they get into the ports in southern Italy. And what's going to happen is they're going to carry this plague with them. And the process of carrying this plague, what will happen is this increased trade has increased the exchange of disease. The Europeans aren't resistant to the plague at all. They're not. They don't know what causes it. And so what's going to happen is they're going to do exactly what we just did over the last years. They're going to lock their doors. They're going to shutter their doors. They're going to shutter their businesses. They're going to say, well, look, this is awful. What's happening is, and they're finally going to decide, perhaps we should shut things down. Well, they're too late. The plague in some parts is going to wipe out 2/3 of the population in different parts of Europe, and that's huge. This is going to face and cause some fundamental changes. So what I want to talk about in the next video is talk about some of those fundamental changes.